So welcome to Angeles Crest Highway. It is rare that I come up all the way over here for a couple of reasons. Number one, I am way on the other side of town. And number two, there's just a ton of traffic up here. But when you come up here, it is absolutely breathtaking. Just look at this. And this is, again, one of the reasons why you live in Los Angeles. So this is the Jetta GLI Edizione 30, or Edition 30 auf Deutsch. And basically, it's the 30th anniversary of the Jetta GLI. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, we drove the Mark 7 GTI like a week and a half ago. And I wanted to drive this car back to back with the Mark 7 for a couple of reasons. Two really in particular. Number one is the engine. Little known secret here, the GLI is the first application of Volkswagen's new corporate EA 888 4-cylinder turbo motor. And basically the difference with this motor from the Mark 6 GTI is this puts out an extra 10 horsepower, so it's 210, and does 207 pound-feet of torque. The Mark 7 GTI has 258 pound-feet of torque, 51 pound-feet of torque more than this car. And to put it in a different way, 25% increase in torque over this car. I mean, that is stunning from a 4-cylinder engine. Am I going to call this car a slouch? Not at all. It's still the same kind of quasi-balanced German sedan that it was. And that brings us to the second and probably much more important point. Most people think of this car as just a GTI with a trunk. Hate to burst your bubble, but way more than that. And the best way to describe that is bullets and numbers. So let's look at two, wheelbase and overall length of the car. The wheelbase between the two, it's 101.5 on the GTI, and this is the Mark 7, and 104.4 on the GLI we're in right now. Not that big, right? Only like, what, 3 inches? Then there's the length. It's almost 2 feet difference in length, which, if you're doing the math, is extra weight. This is 3,134 pounds. The Mark 7 GTI, the newer one with the extra torque, is 100 pounds lighter than this. Okay, so here's a great example in practice. Let's downshift, go around this sharper turn, and look what happens. So what I'm doing is I'm trailing. Remember, this is a front-wheel drive vehicle. I'm trailing an extra 100 pounds and almost 2 feet back there. Let's not try to hit these. Look at all these rocks. This is one of the unique challenges of Angeles Crest Highway. So I'm trailing an extra 100 pounds and almost 2 feet. So look at this. The car is still somewhat balanced, but you got to manhandle a little bit more. That GTI, that Mark 7, not so much. And to come out of these turns, obviously, I don't have as much torque. Is this a bad vehicle? No. I think the best way to describe it is that girl, you know, that cute girl across the room, you see her, and she's got that face that kind of lights up the room, but then she stands up and you notice, you know what? She's got a little bit of junk in the trunk. So the question is, what are we celebrating? Well, we're celebrating 30 years of GLI, which is another way of saying we're celebrating 30 years of a 1.8-liter, 4-cylinder, 90 horsepower motor. That's what it was back in 1984. But hey, if you saw that Mark 7 film we did with the Mark 1 GTI, that was probably the most fun 90 horsepower we've ever driven. So, what did they do to make this car so special? Well, this is the Edizione 30, and that gives you the red stitching on the shift boot, the steering wheel, all of the seats, and then it gives you this red piping, this like carbon fiber look on the seats here, and you get these very cool Laguna 18-inch wheels. There's the GLI Edition 30 badging on the car. There's a deck lid spoiler. There's a red stripe that goes across the front of the grille, and I think that's really it. Oh, this one has the navigation in it, which is optional. So when you get the navigation in the Edition 30, you get the bi-xenon headlights, which are adaptive, so they kind of steer. Granted, it's not dark, so I'm not going to test those for you. So an incredibly big point. Do you guys remember when me and Gene put a Volkswagen Passat TDI up on the rack? He pointed out the rear suspension. And I'm going to let you in on a little dirty secret of the car world. So you know how Volkswagen all of a sudden in the past couple of years has been competing with Hyundai and other like volume car manufacturers at a price? Normally they've been competing at engineering or a better quality car. But they're like, you know what? We're going to sell you a Passat for 20 grand now as opposed to 27 grand. Or we're going to sell you a Jetta for 16 grand as opposed to, say, 25 grand. Or, more often than not, $149.99 a month with just your signature down kind of crap. By the way, you shouldn't be leasing cars, but I digress. Anyway, there's a way in which they get the car that cheap. If you sit in the $16,000 Jetta or the $149.99 a month, the dashboard, it's hard plastic. It's a terrible place to be. But the GLI, it's got the nice, like the GTI type dashboard, better quality materials. It's just a much more pleasant place to drive. But then there's also something you don't see, the rear suspension. So in that Passat, me and Gene showed you this pressed stamp steel rear suspension, which is how they've been able to take $2 grand or more out of the price of a car. Basically, it's the same trick that Hyundai and all those other guys have been doing for years, and that's how they're able to sell you a car cheaper. Well, Volkswagen was known for these very cool, beautiful aluminum subframe multi-link rear suspensions, which are a lot of money. Granted, they work well, but they're a lot of money. Guess what? The base version of the Jetta, no fancy multi-link aluminum exotic rear suspension. But the GLI, this one has the fancy suspension. So when you ask, why does a regular Jetta cost me 16 grand and a GLI cost me 24 grand, it's because there's a better interior, it's because it has a better engine, and it's probably because it's got about a $2,500 set of aluminum hanging off the ass end to carry around an extra 2 feet and 100 pounds. So definitely want to say thank you to you guys for being so vocal about wanting to see more of these Shakedown films. We'll definitely get more of these out to you. Granted, this one we're not doing a full episode on this car, just wanted to do the back-to-back comparison. Definitely want to give a big shout out to two guys who actually gave me their feedback in person. Chris, major car guy, Focus ST driver, and then his buddy Felipe, who drives a Volkswagen, but not just any Volkswagen, but a Volkswagen diesel. So big shout out to you guys. Great seeing you tonight, and we'll see you with more of these shakedowns. Oh, wait a minute. I've been blabbering about Volkswagens for so long and completely forgot. Our next Inside the MotoMan studio is coming up June 21st, Saturday at 11 a.m. At our home, the Peterson Automotive Museum on Museum Row in Los Angeles, California. This is going to be a really cool one. This guy has been a friend of mine for a long time, Felix Holst, who is the design director of Hot Wheels. And not only is this guy a major designer, he's a major car guy. He's built a number of hot rods in his years. One of them was a hearse. And before he even got into design, the guy was a rock star over in the UK, literally. So join us Saturday, June 21st, 11 a.m. Be part of the live audience in the Peterson and make sure you RSVP if you're going to come. Or you can join us via the live stream at YouTube, MotoManTV, all one word. Or you can hit us up for questions. MotoManTV, all one word, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Tune in June 21st. See you then. Okay, so here's the script. For a new MotoMan film every week, click subscribe. And to get a sneak peek of what's coming up on the show, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, MotoManTV, all one word.